Hello, everybody. Initially, with this, I was going to review Chainsaw Man, the manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto. I think that's his name, right? I hope I didn't say the name wrong. That's what I was gonna do initially for this edition of Magenta Monthly. Woo. But no, instead, I'm gonna review Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8. You know, I'm trying to stay strong and say Resident Evil 8 and not Village. I was very against it just being called Village. Yeah. Like, it's so stupid. It, like, literally, they spell out the 8. They highlight the 8 in the title on the box. So why the fuck is it called Village? I don't get it. I'm gonna review it because I just finished it. And, like, I didn't expect to have so much to say about it, right? Because, like, I, like, thought it was just gonna be a fun time. I thought it was just gonna be a fun Resident Evil game, you know? I thought everyone was gonna have, like, the same opinion on it. It was gonna be not polarizing at all. Nope. This game's bad. This game's bad, dude. My good friend Heather, who you can follow on Twitter, at GoofyGogs, so GOUFYGOGGS. She's a game developer. She's really cool. Also has a YouTube channel. She made a tweet that was now deleted because she thought it was maybe too hyperbolic. Saying that this game feels like just as much of a downgrade as Resident Evil 6. And I'm assuming, I mean, that was her wording, right? I'm assuming she meant, like, a downgrade from RE7, like RE6 was a downgrade from RE5, right? Approximately, probably, that's what you meant, right? See, the way I look at it, number one, it's not hyperbole at all, but number two is, like, it's not even just... My thing is not that it's as bad as RE6 necessarily. It's more that it feels like what if we had another RE6 moment, but in 2021, you know, with the series' current direction. Like, what would an RE6 moment look like? And what I mean by an RE6 moment is, like, Capcom, they get into their groove a little bit, and they kind of get full of themselves, and they make a game that's, like, super out of touch and, like, misguided. You know? That's what I mean with it feels like RE6. It legit feels that way. If you haven't played it yet, that may seem crazy. Even if you have played it, that may seem crazy. It may seem like another fucking fun, you know, fucking Resident Evil game. I mean, that's why the game was, like, not poorly received, right? Like, critically. There's no Metacritic. It's 84 on Metacritic. How the fuck is that possible, dude? That's ridiculous. I mean, that's the thing. I saw people be pretty negative about it, like, pretty quickly, right? Even after the demo, right? Like, I mean, specifically with the final game. The demo obviously had a lot of negative sort of feedback. But, yeah, I just remember when the final game came out, like, a lot of people were just like, yeah, this feels like... I didn't really know what people were saying, because, I had, like, everything muted. I wanted to stay clean with spoilers and stuff. But just the general vibe that I got was, like, the story was ridiculous, and, like, was very disjointed, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, that's kind of true, but I think that doesn't really get to the heart of the problem with this game. My biggest problem with this game, I think Heather also said this somewhere. She did, like, a really good review of it as well, that I'm gonna link it so you can read it. But, like, this game feels like it was made for streamers and for people who watch streams, you know? It has So many fucking set pieces. So much, like, so much of this game is not gameplay. So much of this game is like just really basic walking, watching cutscenes, and like doing weird set pieces. Like, I just keep thinking of this fucking sequence where you're, you know, you have this big fish guy basically, and he's swimming around in the water, and like he's trying to attack you, whatever, and you need to do this just completely insubstantial, bland, like platforming whatever puzzle where you walk over some planks and you flip some switches. You die once because like you don't understand how it works yet, and then you get how it works, and then you're like, oh, okay. It's like, it's not offensive, right? It's not like the worst thing I've ever played, but like the whole game is shit like that. Like, so much of the game is shit like that. There's like this whole sequence where you're in this house, and it's like, you know, it's kind of like an escape the room puzzle thing, but like really shallow and like easy and bad and boring. And they take away your weapons, so you already know that nothing can happen to you. Right? Like, it just, like, the way I would put it, obviously the pitch with this game was that it's Resident Evil 4 again, kind of, but it's also a little bit of a cross between classic Resident Evil, which is kind of what RE7 was, right? It's a sequel to RE7, so it takes a lot of that essence, but then also a healthy dose of RE4, right? Awesome. Winning combination. Can't go wrong, right? Sounds perfect. Game of the year. Like, of course you'd be hyped about that. And then you have the fucking tall lady. By the way, it's really funny that, so in the game, they call her, and they say the name Dimitrescu, right? I don't know what exactly happened. It seems like the localizers thought that the U was like added in Japanese, you know? That's like, you know how in Japanese you say, like, you put like a U after a consonant, after the final consonant of like an English word. Like you say Kingdom Hatsu, yeah? Instead of Kingdom Hearts. I think the localizers assumed it was like that. And now they're calling her Dimitrescu instead of Dimitrescu, when Dimitrescu is actually correct. Like, I've had multiple Slav people and viewers on like YouTube or whatever, not my viewers, but like just YouTube commenters, say no, it's actually Dimitrescu. That's pretty funny. Anyway, like, I guess my impression of it was like, huh, you know, it's cool that they're adapting like the feeling of Resident Evil 4 into like a different setting and like different characters, and like there's unique ideas. The merchant looks really cool. It's first person. Yeah, I'm a defender of, well, initially I was a first person hater, right? When RE7 was announced, I was like, this is not Resident Evil, fuck this. This is like, it's gonna be a lame PT streamer, bitch ass, not a horror game, whatever, right? That was my first assumption, and then it turned out, oh, actually this is a Resident Evil game, yeah. And then I was okay with the first person. And yeah, I do think the first person, it's a way to give you like the claustrophobia of fixed camera, in a more like normie, palatable style, you know. Personally, I think you can. Well, actually, you know what? I was gonna say you can just make a fixed camera game, like whatever. Just do that. Yeah, why not? Like fuck the normies, right? But like now I'm thinking about it, it's like, we had so many games in that style. We don't really need more than that. I think that style has just been so thoroughly explored. I do think it's better to like do something new, right? And I think the first person is actually pretty cool, and like it fits the series surprisingly well. I thought Resident Evil 7 like fit the tone and like the feel of it really well. So yeah. So high hopes for RE8, and then like the way I would describe the problem is that it's just it only captures both styles only aesthetically, right? It only really captures the aesthetic of classic Resident Evil and of Resident Evil 4. But what it really is, it's like Resident Evil 7, but like the exploration is extremely fucking streamlined and dumbed down, and there's like a bunch of fucking dumbass set pieces in between, and you can upgrade your weapons, and there's like treasure and stuff, right? That's it. Like, that's the thing. The more I think about it, it's like they didn't really change anything about how RE7 worked to make it feel more like RE4, you know? Like the general sort of like flow and pull, and the push and pull is a good word, of the combat is still so similar to RE7. And what I mean by that is, like, enemies, you're like in these really crammed environments, and enemies just come at you in a straight line, and you have absolutely no way to defend yourself other than do headshots, right? And the headshots do a mediocre job of slowing the enemies down. And like, that's not RE4, right? In RE4, it was like very much about movement and like managing space. Managing space is always the term that I use, right? Like, you have to figure out how to group enemies together, how to, like, which enemies to prioritize, where to move next, from where to shoot, which weapons to use, blah blah blah, like all these really obvious sounding things that, you know, clearly are not so obvious because they're not in RE8, like, at all. It just doesn't feel like that. And it's like, yeah, I did like a little fucking thing on YouTube as well. Like, it was unlisted, but like I posted on Twitter where I went into more detail with why the combat in modern Resident Evil games is kind of so I'm gonna link that, possibly. But like, yeah, the gist of it is just that you really can't do anything. Your movement is just so gimped. You can't really move past enemies. You can't really effectively run away from them and keep them away from you. And it just makes the combat very linear feeling and very not strategic. And, you know, I guess, like, you could say, like, yeah, it feels a little bit more like in survival horror, you worry more about, can I even hit the enemy, you know? Like, that feels very survival horror-esque, and Resident Evil 4 feels more like an action game. But still, like, I just don't think the way the combat is presented is compelling, and like that's the thing, the reason combat in, like, classic Resident Evil games works, you know, and that I include RE7 with that. The reason combat, or I should probably say engagements, the reason enemies work in those games is because you keep having to run back and forth between the same couple locations, right? And you have to really carefully consider, okay, do I use my ammo or not, right? That's what makes it interesting. That's the problem with RE8, is like, it still has that kind of combat, but not the level design to support it, you know? It's like intensely fucking linear. Actually, more so than, you know, RE4, I'd say, even. Well, I mean, it has, like, nice sort of considerations in level design where, like, stuff kind of loops in on itself in a neat way. Like, you keep kind of returning to the village, the titular village, and then, yeah, you have the areas around the village that you mainly explore, and then the village is kind of your hub. That is a really cool structure, yeah, on paper, but like, they never really do the meaningful Resident Evil thing where it's like, fuck, I need to go to this location, and like the path there is like this kind of convoluted, and I want these items with me, but then I need to make a little bit of room so I can take other items, right? That's Resident Evil. That's classic Resident Evil, and for that kind of formula, that combat makes sense, right? Like having enemies just linearly come at you, and then you need to aim at them. That actually makes sense, and that kind of works, even though I still have some problems with RE7 and RE2 make and RE3 make, whatever, right? Like RE2 original and remake, like that's still my preference. But still, it's like not bad. But then RE8 is just for the vast majority of it, it's like a fucking Uncharted kind of thing where really you're just walking, you're just really funneled into the next set piece. And you barely ever return to anything. And then even when you do, it's like you never have to like worry that much about the enemies that are coming at you, right? Like literally, yeah. The way I would break it down is like, the game is like, for the first 2 hours, it's a movie. It's just literally a movie with no gameplay, right? Then for 2 hours, it's actually pretty good, right? It's like pretty decent. You're exploring the castle, and you can actually, there's at least one point where you can choose the order in which you want to do something. Definitely stuck out to me, you know. You know, you need to take keys to like fucking one location from the other or whatever, and you need to also watch out for Lady Dimitrescu, who's chasing you. It's like really easy and simple. It's like not special for Resident Evil at all, but like the castle looks nice and like it's like cozy and like it feels like Resident Evil, you know, like whatever. You'd be like, okay, you know, if this is the start of the game, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty neat, right? Then you get out of the castle. Then it goes movie again for like 2 hours. And then the rest of the game is like a mix of movie and also the boat part from RE7. Obviously the boat part, everyone's favorite part. Where it's like really bland, ugly environments, and you're just kind of scrambling around and like looking for keys and shit and like whatever, right? Like, it's like that's I mean, I said on Twitter, but like, it's kind of lame and bad, but like in the context of RE8, that shit is like the most uninterrupted gameplay that you get for the whole thing, you know? Like, there's this one factory part, and it's like just really fucking bland and, you know, forgettable and like ugly, and like the enemies are like, you fight these chainsaw dudes that have like a big glowing weak spot on their chest, so you wait for them to reveal their weak spot and then you shoot it a couple times, and like most of the time it's more effective to just run past them, right? And you keep running in circles, like to the point of the map where like it marks, okay, go here, please, to get this fucking MacGuffin, then take it somewhere else. Like, it's really not compelling at all. But, like, the rest of the game is so bad and, like, boring and lame and simplistic and, like, a movie that it almost feels like the high point, you know? That's the thing, it's weird, like, I saw so many people say, yo, oh, the game just falls apart in the last bit, oh my god, it's so bad, bro. It's like, does it really fall apart? Is it that much worse than everything else? I don't think so, honestly. So this is something, yeah, Heather also touched on in her review, that's really significant, right? Like, when you're doing all this running around with the key items, whatever, the thing is that you... the key items don't actually take up inventory space. So you never really have to think about, like, like, it's obvious, right? You don't have to think about whether to take a key item with you, or what to take with you, or You never have to make the consideration, oh shit, this key item is gonna, you know, it's gonna take up space. So in the end, it really just makes you wonder, what the fuck even is this game? You know? Like, it's not... It doesn't really have meaningful exploration at all. Like, it's always very linear, it's very clear where to go. The backtracking is, like, super obvious as well. Again, and that's even in parts where the game lets you freely move around. Which is most of the game. Most of the game is you're in some kind of set piece and you're like linearly funneled forward, right? So it doesn't do that. It doesn't do the item management very well. Like, I mean, I kept buying the bigger attaché cases because I could, right? But I didn't need them. You know, I didn't need the extra space at all, ever. There's never a point. There's not a single point of the whole game where my inventory is full, where I couldn't pick something up. Honestly, honest to God, no cap. And then it's not a good RE4 either. It's not a good. It doesn't really have great fucking engaging combat. Like, popping headshots really hits. Like, just the polish of it really does feel nice. I will say, you know, weird anecdotal thing, doesn't matter, not something I should complain about, but like, when the more, just like RE4, every sort of weapon type has, different versions of the same thing. So you get improved handguns, for example, over time. You get improved shotguns over time. And like, the later guns always look way lamer than what you had initially, what you started with. And it's very fucking disappointing, honestly. Especially in the shotgun, it's very evident. You get a shotgun later that basically loads instantly, right? And like, obviously, from a gameplay perspective, that makes it way better. But on the flip side, just the reload animation was so insanely fucking satisfying. For the first shotgun that you had, and even the second one. So why the fuck, man? Like, and yeah, just the standard weapons that you get, they have these very cool like motifs on them. These like engravings on the actual metal, or whatever it is. It's really cool, and yeah, you just later swap them out for like really generic military-looking versions, and it's kind of sad. Honestly, yeah, just this, yeah, the gist of RE8 is that it feels like just a big, meaningless, stupid movie game, you know? Yeah, I don't even know how else to describe it. Like, there's just nothing mechanically in the game that's very compelling compared to other Resident Evil games. Honestly, even, that's the thing, like, really, legitimately, like, the enemy variety and enemy behavior is, like, better than RE7, but that's it. There's nothing really about the combat that's, like, substantially different or substantially more strategic or more engaging, you know, in a way that would let it bridge the gap to RE4. It just does not do that at all. And then the story is, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but the story is like so contrived and it takes itself so fucking seriously while also making no sense at all and being really stupid, and like, there's very little cheesy levity. And, you know, I don't know, I felt RE7 somehow it struck such a good fucking tone. Especially with how crazy Jack was, right? I think Jack really brought it all together. Like, he was crazy and threatening, but also funny. And then I think they struck such a good balance with Ethan in 7. Because, like, he had just the right amount of personality, IMO. You could really see him grow from just a regular, average fucking white guy to a hero, you know? Like, you actually saw that transition, that he got more confident over time, very subtly, not with just fucking pompous, overdone dialogue every fucking 5 seconds. Like, now, they really heard the criticism, they really fucking heard you guys, about the fact that Ethan is, like, such a faceless protagonist, so they gave him all these fucking Nathan Drake lines now, in RE8, and it's so obnoxious. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah. I'll say Chris's whole design and just the way he looks, very cool. Very sick. But yeah. Again, even like in terms of the story, I think, yeah, there's like, again, there's cool elements, right? Lady D, whatever. But it just never gets as endearing or fleshed out as RE7 even, for example. Like, I think RE7 just did such a good job. You know, spoiler for RE7, I guess, but like, you realize by the end, oh shit, the Bakers, the family that, like, is, you know, keeping you captive, they're also victims. They're actually, they're not doing this, off their own volition, right? Like, they were hurt by this whole thing as well. And, that's really cool, and they make you actually care about that family, you know, this family that you were fighting the whole time, basically. And, just, I don't know, you have moments with Zoe and with Mia that feel really impactful, and, yeah, you're actually building relationships with new characters over the course of the game, right? I think that's like the main thrust of every Resident Evil. That's where every Resident Evil succeeds with its story, right? That you come into this thing, and like your personal motivations are like not super deep or not super established, right? Even with Ethan, like, obviously they make a big deal, like, blah, he needs to find his wife, but like they don't dwell on it that hard. They don't really expect you to be super emotional about it all the time. So instead, the focus is on you learn about the Bakers, and you learn about what happened, and you actually, it's not just lore text, right? It actually fucking matters to you as a character, and to you as a player. And yeah, and in RE8 that never happens. Like, they have hints of that at the very start, right? That you meet these villagers, but then they, minor spoiler for like the first hour of the game, they all fucking die. And then really the only person that Ethan cares about over the course of the game is his family, right? Rose and Mia. And then the only other friendly character is the Duke, right? And, yeah, like, the villains just feel so flat. Heisenberg is pretty funny, but kind of in a bad way. I mean, he's like, I wouldn't say he's like especially well done. He just feels kind of lame and stupid and dumb. But like, he's still funny, kind of. It's very hard to describe. Most of his jokes and threats and shit like that, they don't really entirely land, but just his whole attitude is so ridiculous. His voice acting is so ridiculous that you still kind of chuckle, right? He has one really fucking great line. There's one really great line toward the very end. That's like a reference to an older Resident Evil game. You'll know it when you see it. Yeah. I feel like had he been more present over the course of the game, maybe that could have given it some levity. But overall, the game just feels so fucking deadly serious all the time, in a way that doesn't really suit the ridiculousness of the story, right? And, like I said, there's like one guy among the villains that, you know, it actually feels like, okay, they portray like sort of what's going on more deeply in the story through his mannerisms very well, and that kind of hit for me. But everyone else, like especially the main villain, like you just don't feel it. You don't feel their motivations, and you don't feel the threats. They feel very generic. Like in Resident Evil 4, the villains are just super faceless, whatever. Like they don't matter at all. They don't have really, they don't have significant motivations at all, right? But they're so ridiculous, and they have so much screen time with Leon, so much back and forth, so much banter, that it actually feels like something, you know? And they have like memorable designs, memorable personalities. And for RE8, it just feels so flat, and yeah, even in that way, it feels like RE6. You know, it just feels like this really not quite as much as RE6, right? But it feels like this really flat, lifeless game. That's really my takeaway from it. So yeah, it's like shockingly really bad. It's not even like I'd say it's underwhelming, and as a game, it's mediocre, I'd say, overall. You know, if you look at it from like AAA fucking perspective, like average Joe Schmo that buys games, like probably won't be that unhappy with it. It's not it's not like literally broken, right? But the way I look at it, it's like, oof, it's like it's just this fucking set piece monster that like man. Yeah, it feels like a bad Naughty Dog clone, almost, you know? It feels like a bad fucking Naughty Dog game. I was really thinking of Last of Us 2 a lot while I was playing it, but like Last of Us 2 has way better combat, way more impactful resource management, just deeper mechanics in general, right? Higher density of combat, and also just a way more, like, a story that I could level things at, but still like a story that kind of matters and that like has something to say at least. Yeah, it's, I really, really, truly wonder like what the discourse is gonna be like for RE8 in the future. I just can't see a scenario where people actually will remember this game super fondly long term. That seems very unlikely to me. But yeah, let me know if you've played it, what you think. Am I exaggerating? Am I crazy? Do you think that's ridiculous? What I'm saying is ridiculous? Can you like sort of get where I'm coming from? I think it's like a 2 out of 5. That's how I would rate it. If I had to rate it out of 10, yeah, 5 out of 10, 2 out of 5 feels like pretty accurate, I guess. I mean, 5 out of 10 is not literally the same thing as 2 out of 5, but like it feels kind of the same, yeah. Especially for what the game is. Very close to a 4. A light 5. I like the Fantano system. I like light 5, decent 5, strong 5. That feels very accurate to me. It's like a light 5. Strong 4 is a light 5. It's either that or a 2 out of 5. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you. So, I just listened back to the whole thing because I was obviously very sleepy last night, and I wasn't sure if it was good. It was fine. Like, this is like in a state where I could release it. I'd say. I just remembered one thing that sort of kept bugging me that I didn't mention. There's exactly one fight in the whole ass game. Or like one part, I should say. The stronghold. When you enter the stronghold, you'll know it when you see it. That's the only part of that whole game where it actually feels like it capitalizes on the combat even a little bit. It's the only part that's even remotely comparable to like Resident Evil 4 or 5 type level design. With like actually a big level that you can run around in, and where enemies are coming at you from all sides. And like they actually do use the enemy design well in that sequence, because like it's interesting, the Lycans, they can sort of they can climb along the walls and like the ceilings in a way that you can't. So you kind of have to think of that as you're traversing, as you're trying to avoid them. And that's like, wow, why was the whole game not like this? Because like that ability, for example, the Lycans sort of climbing around, it literally never even factors into gameplay for most of the duration that you're playing. Just seeing that comparison was really wild. And like, I'd say even then, you know, it wasn't like RE4 level, right? Obviously it was not as good. But I feel like, you know, if the whole game was like this, I would have been way happier with it. I think that was the direction that it should have been, you know, that, like, it clearly shows you that this game didn't have to be bad, right? There was something kind of here, and, it's just the way they assembled the pieces is very unfortunate, very, very lackluster. Like, yeah, like, if you've played it, let me know, did that also stick out to you, that sequence? Because it feels like really the only part of the game where you're actually playing the game. It feels like the only part of the game where you're actually fighting and, like, where the combat feels fully formed. And it's, like, right toward the end, and it's a single sequence. And, like, all the other fights that you have in the game, yeah, it's just small group of enemies, coming at you very linearly, and like you can't really move, you can't really do anything interesting. Yeah, if you peep like my replies on Twitter, you can see some of my thoughts on like, you know, more of the story, like with how they did the lore and like the theming. Because like I didn't want to say it here because it's like kind of spoilery, but it's interesting to think that there is like a grander sort of thematic through line in this game than you usually get in Resident Evil, right? There's like themes of parenthood and just community and worship and all this stuff. It's very clearly the focus of the story, where it's like mirrored in different places, and like there's a lot of symbolism of that nature, right? That definitely stuck out to me. But it just doesn't really come together, you know? It doesn't come together into anything really that impactful in the end, for all the reasons that I said. So yeah, it's just very sad. It's just very sad because you realize, yeah, this game really, again, like I said, like it's the way it was assembled, you know? It's not that the individual elements are strictly bad. Yeah, very, very sad, very unfortunate. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this review. Goodbye.